All right. Welcome everyone to Founders First Business Essentials webinar. This is our webinar from Founders First CDC. We are a nonprofit organization, community development organization, and small business accelerator that supports underrepresented founders achieve growth through educational curriculum, hands-on assignments, and expert coaching. So today's webinar is the business of healthcare post-pandemic time. And we have two fabulous speakers, panelists who will be with us today to speak about all the ups and downs of healthcare, their experience, and much, much more today. So let's move right along and get started. So today's agenda, everyone here is muted who's on the call. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them towards the end of our webinar today. We'll go over not only meeting our guest speakers today, but getting started in the business of healthcare, triumphs and the struggles due to COVID, because we know a lot have had some struggles, lessons learned in the industry, as well as plans for the future post-pandemic. And then closing with any actions, positive words of affirmations, anything you want to leave for our viewers, as well as any questions that you may have for those interested in healthcare or those who are already starting. So the purpose of our webinar today is to give people exposure to the business of healthcare from successful, diverse founders that you'll meet today. COVID pandemic has caused such a huge shift in the American healthcare system that a lot have had to undergo in a matter of months, which often would have taken years to do. So we'll discuss how smart business owners, such as the ones who'll be here today, will take us on their journey going through COVID-19, as well as any lessons learned, any things that they've experienced, and how they've been able to shift and adjust due to those changes. So before we do that, these are our speakers. We have Dr. Morial McClurkin, President and CEO of Southland Care Coordination Partners, as well as Arturo Taylor, President and CEO of Taylor Distribution Group, doing business as TDG Scientific. And I'm your host, Shaylin Scott, Executive Director of Founders First CDC. So we have a brief poll before we get going on our introduction of our speakers. I would love for our teammates to pop up a poll and see who is in attendance, as well as what you plan to do. So we'll give you about a few minutes, not even a few minutes, but a little bit less than that. Tell us where you're from, what your interest is in healthcare, what you're planning to gain from this. So we'd like to know who all is in the audience. So if you could take a moment and fill out the brief poll. All right, give you a few more seconds. Last chance, guys. Okay, I think we'll wrap up our poll. Thank you so much for that helpful information. That lets us know who all is in the room and where we need to go from here. So without further ado, I want to introduce two of our spotlight panelists that we're having today. First up is Dr. Morial McClurkin. He has a very extensive background, and I'll just give you a brief overview of all the great things that he's accomplished. He has over 30 years of healthcare executive experience. His experiences include working to build the capacity of community and faith-based organizations in health promotion and disease prevention. He's organized chronic disease self-management workshops, designed and managed social marketing and health communication campaigns, all surrounding diabetes prevention, obesity prevention. He's implemented healthcare and stroke prevention, trained the trainer classes, a lot of great work. work surrounding the healthcare industry. He's also received national recognition for the Center of Disease Control Prevention as a Communities Putting Prevention to Work champion. This is for his work establishing faith-based chronic disease self-management programs. He's also past and presented organizational involvements include the Congressional Black Caucus, Health Brain Trust Stakeholder Committee, the Southland Chamber of Commerce Health Committee, National Association of Health Service Executives, the Alliance for Healthy and Active Communities, Southland Ministerial Health Network, American Sustainable Business Council, World Green Business Association, and Action for Sustainable America. He has a doctorate degree in business administration, and he's also a former adjunct professor for Governor State University's Health Administration Department. So welcome, Dr. McClurkin, to our meeting today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Thank you. And next up, we have Artura Taylor. She is the president and CEO of Taylor Distribution Group, TDG Scientific. It started in 2009 by Ms. Taylor, a former regional vice president of a Fortune 100, and she has over 30 years of corporate and entrepreneurial experience. TDG Scientific has quickly become an industry leader, and through Artura's leadership, it has established a national footprint by partnering directly with global manufacturers, serving over 20 million and more in government and private contracts. She specializes in life sciences, research and development, wastewater treatment, higher education, pharmaceutical industries, and Artura has been named as a 2020 Outstanding WBE CEO in Texas, nominated by WBENC, and is also a proud member of Disability in DFW, MSDC, and Diversity Alliance for Science. She's additionally participated in the renowned FastPath program, go FastPath, Merck Drexel, Tuck Minority Executive Business Education Program at Dartmouth, the SBA Executive Entrepreneurship Program, and was selected as one of 20 women executives to join the inaugural class for women in oil and gas, sponsored by WBNC, Shell, Exxon, Chevron, and BP. So welcome, Artura. Thank you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
So much for having me. Sorry about that. Thanks.
Great. So now that we know all of the depth and breadth from both of your experiences in the field of healthcare and much more, it seems like you've been involved in so many other areas. The areas that we're going to focus on today is getting started in the business of healthcare, triumphs and struggles due to COVID, lessons learned in the industry, plans for the future, and post-pandemic. So as I mentioned for all our viewers here today, if you have any questions for our attendees, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them towards the end of our discussion, and we will get started now. Okay, so I'm going to ask a few questions of you guys and feel free to chime in. So I'll start with you first, Artura. Tell us a little bit about your business.
TDG Scientific, we are a Tier 1 diverse value-add integrated solution provider of laboratory equipment, supplies, chemical safety, and PPE. We help companies reduce their total cost of procurement by partnering with our global strategic partners. We and industry leaders, we offer unlimited capacity to aggregate spend, unlimited product choice, and competitive pricing with no variances in deliverable metrics. We're Dallas, Texas based, and we are a true Tier 1 diverse supplier with direct contract holders over $20 million and long-term government and private sector contracts. We're proud to serve customers like Bristol Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, State Universities in New York State, Mary Kay Cosmetics, City of Dallas, the Department of Defense, and a host of others. We are vetted through our global strategic partnerships for over 11 years with a proven track record in operational excellence, and our customers rank us in the top 95 percentile for customer satisfaction verified by Dun & Bradstreet. Additionally, we're one of 3 of the true Tier 1 diverse suppliers, and we offer up to 25 certifications, affording our customers at least 10 Tier 1 diverse credits for every $1 diverse spend. We're so excited to have the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Shayla.
Wonderful. That is great. So everyone take notes. I'm sure you're going to want to contact both of our speakers. So be sure to do so.
I want to contact her now.
Exactly.
No, you, doctor.
And next up, Dr. McClurkin, tell us a little bit about your business.
Our company, Southland Care Coordination Partners, we started this business back in 2014. We came on board along the same times that the Affordable Care Act came into existence, which changed the focus of healthcare from what we call volume-based care, where the more people were sick, the more everybody in healthcare profited, to value-based care, where the focus began to be increasingly on healthcare outcomes. We serve as a care management supplier, BEP care management supplier for major managed care organizations, health plans, and healthcare providers. We address the care management needs of members outside the clinical setting. So what happens when you leave a hospital and you have discharge instructions? Who's helping you to manage those instructions, follow those instructions, and address any barriers that you may have? Or when you leave a physician's office and there is a level of follow-up care that needs to happen. So we're the experts for after clinical care, healthcare management, which is very important.
Wonderful. I told you guys we had some great speakers. Great. And they're FastPath members, which is wonderful. So Dr. McClurkin, you mentioned you're in Chicago, Arturo, you're in the Dallas region. So what regions do you serve? Even though you're based in those areas, do you serve outside of the regions? We'll start with you, Dr. McClurkin.
We're basically serving the state of Illinois. We're looking to expand. Our goal within the next 3 years is to be multi-state. We started basically in one region of the metropolitan Chicago area. And then within a few years, we had gone statewide. And now our goal is to be a multi-state care management supplier.
What about you, Arturo? What areas are you serving?
As I mentioned, we're Dallas, Texas based, but we do have a national footprint, and we've been in business since 2009. So we have contracts that span across the United States as far as Orange County, California, Long Beach, all the way over to New York State. We have a national footprint. We specialize in the water and wastewater treatments for cities, counties, and states. We do organic chemicals and stuff for the Department of Defense in Florida. So we're all over. We're blessed to be able to have a national footprint.
Wonderful. I love how you both have opportunities to grow and expand, even outside of the areas you're in. Yeah. National footprint, maybe worldwide, who knows? Put that out in the atmosphere. So next up, what led you to start your business? Was there something or someone that led you to this path that you're on?
Arturo, you going first on that one?
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Well, as a former executive with McDonald's Corporation, I never fathomed the economic downturn would be as severe in 2008 that I'd be thrust back into the workforce. And in these throes of entrepreneurship as a minority woman in a heavily male-dominated industry, but I made a decision to suit up and show up. And that's one of my themes, is to suit up and show up. We started TDG, Taylor Distribution Group, that's now TDG Scientific, in 2009 with the vision of selling commodities to the government. It's been through a lot of tenacity and unwavering commitment to transform what I saw as the impossible to the possible by learning and continuing to evolve our skill set, that our company has been able to forge business changing relationships. I actually started with the city of Dallas buyer, who was patient enough to help teach me the government contracting. I knew nothing of it. Started this business at the age of 53. And despite being a small company in a highly competitive industry, we secured the resources that were necessary to be able to learn the ebbs and flows of the industry. More importantly, we were able to create and provide immediate value. Under the guidance of this buyer, we got the exact opportunities to firsthand study and the commodity contracts. We analyzed bids. We pinpointed strategic ways that we could be more competitive and begin to win large contracts that were previously held by now our global strategic partners, the largest manufacturers in the world. From there, we set our sights on the dream industry. We diversified our base in 2016 to the pharmaceutical industry. We are distributors for some of the large pharmaceutical companies, but we wanted to supply them. We were able to leverage our existing relationship and through some of our certifications, like with Disability In, and we were introduced to Bristol Myers and several of the other pharmaceutical companies, and we consummated a contract to source their large capital equipment. We've now been fortunate enough to through our global partners, we have a relationship that we're about to do a B2B with Johnson & Johnson. Pfizer is now our mentor. We're working with them on sourcing pallets and other laboratory supplies. And it's just been really a phenomenal opportunity. We just partnered, received a proposal from Catalent, one of the largest manufacturers of the COVID vaccines for both Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. So we're just grateful to have the opportunity, and we've worked extremely hard for it. One last thing, we've been really fortunate to be able to participate in this wonderful Founders First program. And it alone too has helped solidify our base to continue on our trajectory. And we're really grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you, and congratulations. Just mouth drop. Wonderful.
Yes. Well, I've been a social entrepreneur since I was 6 years old. I remember, seeing soda bottles on the ground and grabbing my red wagon and starting to pick them up, and carrying them to the recycling plant, the bottling plant that Pepsi-Cola had, and making 2 cents a bottle. And that began a long life as a social entrepreneur. I got into healthcare because of my own health experience. Years ago, at a young age, I faced some emerging medical issues, and I was doing a lot of study and research on the connection between food and health, and made some changes in my diet, became a vegan, and saw the significant impact on my own health care, and became very passionate about health at that time. And so I, began a long career of a number of ventures related to health, from doing workshops, doing social media campaigns related to health, a vegan restaurant, doing employee wellness programs for the Gary Steele Mill. I mean, I've been involved in social entrepreneurship related to health since the early 90s. We got involved in this particular initiative back in around 2010, 2011. We had been fighting for access to health in the South suburban Chicago area. We've been doing a lot of work around health literacy and health education, and the opportunity when we saw the shift based on the Affordable Care Act, giving more people access to care, we realized that there would be a unique opportunity for community-based organizations to serve a valuable role of engaging people who would be difficult to engage. Now you would have homeless people with access to health care, but how they're going to get access to health care? Who's going to be outreaching to them? You're going to have communities of color that traditionally have been, fearful of the healthcare industry. And so we got involved, put a proposal together, submitted it to the state of Illinois, and we were selected as a care coordination entity. We were assigned a number of Medicaid members, and that started a career. After that, we started collaborating with the managed care organizations in Illinois as a primary partner. And we've been driven, our success has been driven by quality performance. We're good at what we do. That's one of our values, being the best, delivering on quality service, meeting outcome and performance metrics. And so we're so good until if you give us one shot, before you know it, we'll be in bed with you. And so that's what has happened to us in the state of Illinois. We've been so good at our work in terms of engaging people, in terms of being able to produce the kind of health outcomes that are meaningful and that reduces cost and save money. And so that's how we've evolved in this industry. We're probably the number one primary subcontractor, minority subcontractor for healthcare providers in Illinois at this point.
Congratulations to you as well. It sounds phenomenal. I love how both of your journeys have gone here to here to here. And speaking about the journeys, usually when you're in high school or college, you have an idea of where you want to be and where you will be in the future and how a business should be run. But it sounds like you each had very different outcomes and journeys. So what are some of those key lessons that you learned on this journey to success? And we'll start with you, Arturo.
I think what Moriel mentioned a moment ago is probably one of the most, that's the foundation of everything to me, especially being a small minority woman, veteran, whatever, is you got to be up, suit up, show up and do the very best. You got to exceed the norm. You know, you just can't, integrity, credibility. I'd say one of the biggest lessons I've learned too is that when you suit up and show up, people do business with people they trust and they get to know, you know, and the only way you can build a trust is to be able to be willing to learn everything that you can about the industry, be willing to do the best that you can at everything that you do. You have to outperform everybody. You really do. And one of the things too that I learned is early on is that even though we have a blessing, and even more so now with the economic climate and the push for diverse span, and the doors are opening up wider than they ever have before, is that I've always, and Moriel both have us in common, we're baby boomers, you know, and you just try not to lead with the certification. You don't look for a handout.
That's right.
No, what you do is you let it open the door, but you very well must have the capability, the capacity, the credit, whatever's necessary, integrity, you know, credibility, do whatever it takes to get the job done. You know, and one of the other things that I found that helps a lot is to join every organization, association, do as much professional development as you can. And then through some of those certifications and associations, you meet people. You know, the Disability Inn has afforded us an opportunity to walk in a room with every pharmaceutical company in the world, you know, and then you get that introduction, and that's where they have to mitigate their risk. You know, imagine $1 billion company looking at a small business and going, you know, you really want to be able to get in there. And I don't care how much supply diversity there is in the world. You got to be able to understand there's a risk that comes along. Be willing to partner, you know, be willing to partner, you know, get with people that contractors, prime contractors, be the sub until you can get that foundation laid. So those are the things that I've learned. And, you know, we've had the privilege of being invited through the $1 billion roundtable through Disability Inn. You know, things that we would have never, ever had access to. Leveraging a relationship from meeting Bristol Myers, where the cycle can take 3 to 5 years or never make it. We did it in 18 months. You know, so those are the things, again, that you learn by just suiting up and showing up. Go to every conference, everything that you can. Get to know the movers and the shakers and do the best you can do.
Love it.
Key points. Thank you for that, Arturo. Let me add a few things from my experience, but definitely what she said, and then let me add a few things. First, there are three main things for me. First is that we're a learning organization. That means that we have, you know, wherever we started, we're never there anymore. We're constantly gaining new insights. And we're constantly integrating those new insights into our processes, practices, and procedures. And we use everything to become more knowledgeable at what we do. And that's how we have become the experts. And so I certainly say to those who are inspiring to be in the healthcare business, create a learning organization that's constantly seeking to improve itself. Secondly, we're nimble. That means that we are able to, our purpose doesn't change, our vision doesn't change, our practices and processes have changed. And that's because we're able to shift as circumstances in the market dictates that we shift. You know, we're moving fast into telehealth. That's because who could get to a doctor in 2020? And so, you know, more people were doing interviews, having doctor visits over the phone and over Zoom. And so, you know, we see these trends occurring we're quick to move with the trends before they hit. So we're stargazers. We're always looking at what's coming and making the shift ahead of the curve. We were home working remote in early March. I think they didn't even list the stay-at-home requirements for the state until around May. But we were home March. We had outfitted all of our staff with computers. We had put the controls in place. We had put the management software in place where we can make sure you were home and working. And you know, we were at home. And one of the companies that we subbed for, we were able to gain an advantage because, you know, when their staff couldn't work and they hadn't prepared them to work from home and they couldn't no longer come in the office, they had to then sub out more work to us because we were already a remote company. So you have to be nimble. You have to be able to adjust, you know, how you do business, but maintain the consistency of your company. And the third thing I would say is that, you know, you can only travel as far as the car you're in. You know, if you're trying to go to California, you got a raggedy car, you're not going to get very far. And so a lot of people go into business with a lot of passion, but they don't build the structure of the company so that they can really, you know, that vehicle is going to be, in building the vehicle is important for leveraging contracts. As Arturo was saying, you know, they've been able to leverage a lot of contracts, but they had to build and structure the business to be able to do that. A part of the industry we're in required that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in technology, security technology, because we're accessing, you know, HIPAA information, and we had to spend that money up front. We spent that money before we had contracts, because we knew that when people came to us and said, okay, we wanted you to work with our members, they're going to want to know what's your security protocol. So we had to build a solid company, you know, with you know, the infrastructure that's necessary for our company to grow. So, you know, build the infrastructure of your business while you're building your business. And then the final thing I would say is that, you know, as I said in one of my books, you can't grow your business without growing yourself. So you have to continue to grow your character as the leader of an industry. You have to continue to grow and develop as a person, because businesses can knock you down. Being in business can knock you flat.
Yes.
And so if you don't learn to be mentally strong, emotionally tough, emotionally intelligent, you know, all of those things, you can stress out and be, you know, have a mental breakdown trying to run a successful business like we're running.
Those are such great gems, and we're going to go over some of those gems towards the end, because I've been taking my own notes if you haven't. So you'll have plenty of nuggets to take with you. But Dr. McClurkin, you kind of touched on some of the changes and being nimble and being flexible. COVID definitely knocked a lot of businesses around this year.
It did.
What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome during the pandemic? You mentioned some of those. Were there any others that have kind of shifted the way that you're moving now?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, the concept of workspace had to change for us. We saw workspace, somebody sitting at a desk in an office with a physical phone, et cetera, and we had to change, and we're not going back to where we were. We changed workspace to a virtual experience, and so now we can provide you with a computer. You can make calls over the computer. You don't need a phone, and all of the software and technology it takes for you to be secure in that workspace, as well as for us to monitor and manage the work that you're doing. You know, we had to put that in place because COVID had created a reality where a physical workspace was no longer practical for us, and I don't think that reality is going back anytime soon. So that was very important. So in doing that, we had to learn, how do you manage a remote workforce? So we had to change managing techniques and processes and shift them, because people are not sitting down in front of us. And so but we still had to ensure quality of what Arturo was talking about, performance. So how do we shift our approach to managing a remote workforce. That was very significant for us. So again, so COVID has done all of that. So that's some of, we can talk about some more, but I wanted to give Atura a chance to respond to that.
Yeah.
A couple of great things that you mentioned too early on that I want to go back on is that nimble part. You know, being nimble
Yeah.
and being able to,
Mhm.
from a business is one thing too, but that's one of the other advantages of being a small business, is that you're nimble enough to do things that bigger corporations and big primes
True.
can't do. We
True.
can be value add.
True.
But you
True.
know, as I mentioned, my biggest pivot came at 53 when I thought I was semi-retired, and then I had to start this business. You know, it didn't, you know, and then it was, I didn't want to go back to corporate America. And, you know, I'd been entrepreneur in and out my corporate and my 30-year experience. But one of the quick things that I learned, we bootstrapped, you know, we bootstrapped. And so, and also when I entered at 53, the millennials was it, you know, and they taught me real quick what the workforce was like. So remote for 12 years. We were remote before COVID hit, you know, and I learned to be agile enough to listen, you know, because when we built, first of all, we eliminated we have a corporate office, but we could downsize it. The brick and mortar, we didn't have to pay excess for. I learned quickly about the tools and technology that you have. And I hope anybody who's out there who does have a remote workforce has tracking on it. You know,
Yes,
the software that
definitely.
you have to track the
You have to.
productivity, or you
You
just,
have to.
yeah, you will be in worse than COVID. You're not able to track. But the
You
other
have
part,
people at home vacationing.
that's right. The other part too is that we were fortunate enough in the to be able to service the greater percentage of our government contractual base was essential business, and that was the water and wastewater. And then we also had the pharmaceuticals, which everybody was struggling to get COVID vaccines, you know, so that didn't stop.
Mhm.
Now, the biggest industry that impacted in our portfolio was the universities. The universities literally came to a halt, but we were able to pretty much survive without, everybody took a hit. We did too, but we were fortunate enough not to. Now, what we did face a lot of is that because our core products are laboratory equipment, but we do safety and PP&E. We had just been awarded the New York State statewide contract in January. We had the chemical part of it in July of 2019, 2020, January, February 2020. We were on the front line of New York State being hit with it. You know, it just hit New York, you know, and to watch all the major global companies that we're partnered with to not have any resources, and everything went on allocation, which meant everything came from China. You know, all the PPE used is manufactured, they're shipped here. All imports were stopped. So the biggest part that we had to overcome was we had to be nimble, as Muriel mentioned, and source from some of the smaller ones. We do forensic supplies. So you were able to find, you had to be agile enough to figure out how to do what you had to do to go find a way to make it happen, you know? And so even though we have the largest manufacturers in the world, the allocation was just whatever wasn't in the storerooms was over. So that was the biggest thing that we had to do, is to remain flexible. You know, we had to get our team to remember to be agile, be flexible, do whatever it takes, and just, it was hard, you know, but we survived it. We're still surviving it. But then I'd say that was pretty much one of the biggest things.
Let me add one more thing, and I think Atura symbolizes that. You have to have smart leadership. I mean, you can tell she's a smart woman.
Oh, now come on, Maria. Doctor. Dr. Burrell.
No, you are. No, you know, you have to be smart. I mean, you have to be business smart and business savvy. And you can learn that. And you can, and one of the questions in the chat has to do with having mentors. And you can have people who will mentor you. I mean, the clinical side of healthcare wasn't my specialty. I was more in the community-based side of healthcare. But I surrounded myself with clinicians, people who knew the clinical side, doctors, nurses, people who knew the technology side. One of the smartest brothers in technology, my business partner, Edwin, I call him the Yoda of technology. I mean, I sucked up everything he had to say. And so in order for me to lead the company, I had to grow my knowledge. I had to become more intelligent. And so you can, when you hear people like Atura talk, you hear someone who I don't know where she started, but I know at this point she's gained a real profound level of understanding of her market and how to access it and how to be a major player in it. And so you know, you can't just, I know you hear somebody like that talking and you think they were born with it as an innate thing, but you can't take it for granted. It takes work to gain that kind of insight and understanding, and that's going to be very important, no matter what aspect of healthcare you're in.
I know we deviating a little bit here, but
That's okay.
on
That's
that
okay.
point, he's right about that. Is that, you know, you have at McDonald's, we had this thing about being green and growing. You should never stop learning. Never. You know, I've had every professional development, minority, entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you name it, I've taken it. You
Yeah.
know, as a matter of fact, and I turned 65 on March 19th. And me and Morel was in this group together. And that Founders First was probably the epitome. It was the epitome of anything at top, any educational, academic, anything that I've ever applied. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything encapsulated like that. So,
Sure.
matter of fact, professional development is on my resume. You know, so you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to continue to grow and to learn. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of that, the academic part is great, you know, but then the mentorship, when you mentioned that,
Yes.
because of the organizations that we've been in with Diversity Alliance for Science, American Airlines, Toyota, Pfizer, Novartis, these are my mentors. You know, and you get the mentors from the organizations that you aspire to do business with.
Yeah.
You expect a contract from them, but
Yeah.
they'll help you learn what they're looking for. They help you understand how to identify pain points. They help you
Yeah.
understand technological needs. You can talk to the CPO, you know, you can talk to the category managers and really garner insight that we as small businesses would never
Yeah.
have any access
Yeah.
to. So mentorships are extremely important. And it always, to me, you know, it's great when you're able to find some, as you know, through your own professional development. But again, a lot of those great organizations offer that. And I would say take every opportunity you can, do anything to learn as much as you can. And the mentorships are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Such valuable information you guys are leaving us with in relationships and leveraging those relationships and opportunities is
Certainly.
huge, Some of the questions, and we'll get to some of these questions too in the chat in just a few minutes here. The one on mentoring and is so valuable that no matter what industry you're in, you should definitely take advantage of that for sure. Some other areas that you were flexible and shifted in your business, are there some that you are continuing to maintain to do post-pandemic? Or are there some that you may need to adjust moving forward? Are you planning to continue to stay remote? Those types of things?
We're growing out the clinical side. We were strong in the navigator side, and that means people, community health worker type staffing that could help people make appointments and do things like that. We're growing the clinical side. We're right now, I'm bringing on board about 30 nurse practitioners, and so that's, you know, that's a real big deal. You know, we're getting more to the primary care side of this industry. And, you know, the sky is the limit. I mean, there's always new opportunities to seek. You know, we haven't exhausted the opportunities at all. So, you know, we could grow as big as we can grow our capacity. You know, one of the contracts that I worked from being one of many vendors to being a prime vendor is because we were doing such a good job, and every time they praised us, I said, make me your sole subcontractor. And they would always ask me, what's your capacity? And I would say your need in 30 days.
I know that's right.
I like that
That's
answer.
my capacity.
Systemic
Whatever your
problem
need
solver.
is,
That's
and
right.
30 days to ramp up to it. So the sky's the limit.
What about you, Artur? Are there any areas that you've learned since COVID that you're going to continue to implement post-pandemic?
Well, you know, as I mentioned, we bootstraps. It was real important to us to stay lean and mean. I think the remote workforce is always going to be part of our environment, but as we scale, we're probably now going to have to look at building a bigger base and having some mortar. again, having the opportunity to participate in Founders First, which is one of the divine intervention for us, because there's always help for the startups, but when you become a mature business, you long to have someone can come in, or the type of programs that are available to help you get to the next level. Because then, and Founders First is that, so it gave us the opportunity to just do some of the access and the subject matter experts to really help us, as Morel mentioned a moment ago, talk about capacity and knowing your market. Now, I knew that we were one of the few tier ones, but until this program, I had no idea the actual how much opportunity there was. So it helped quantify it. I'm serious. It helped you quantify it. It helped you learn how to look at your competitors. It taught us how to be able to understand if we choose to, what would be necessary for us to go for it. It just was a phenomenal program. So yes, there are things that we will keep in place, but I think we now have the opportunity to really get to that dream that we've been trying to get to for a while. And it will require us to have some brick and mortar. One of the other things is that we make sure that we boost the level of our communication by enhancing our customer service and our bid teams, because you want to always have, one of our value props is our customers always know where this, in the commodity business, they never have to fret. You always want to provide the most superior customer service is a top priority, and everybody should be customer centric. If there's anything you learn, even from Amazon, it's customer. And we've had some staff members in our bid department increase the reach to be able to provide the value to our new pharmaceutical companies and continue to invest in the technology. As we try to get to this aggressive goal in our sales projections.
Great. Well, you both have done phenomenal work in your businesses, and which you're truly a testament to your hard work and effort is the growth that you've had and where you're going. So where do you see your business going in the future? And either one of you can start with that.
Go ahead, Arturo.
I got a big Harry. I'm a dreamer from the beginning, and as everybody who comes in contact with me know that I am not a spring chicken. I'm on a mission, and this is a bucket list. And we will get to $25 million in the next 3 years.
Love it.
I kid you not, we will. And then that's the first goal, and then there's another program that'll take us and help us to take it out. We want to help create wealth. We want to help. Our mission is not about the monetary part. To me, it is that God has given me the grace, whatever all that He continues to bestow upon me to touch others, and then to be able to pursue a dream that I've wanted to say I can do it, just to say that we can do it. We can do this, and we can build companies that can become major players in the market. And that's what our goals are.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I agree, and we were very similar. I mean, for us, it's about just performing at our capabilities, and our capabilities are endless. We can see ourselves being a nationally renowned company. We're certainly smart enough, and we work hard enough to get there. It's just a matter of getting the right opportunities, and we push hard for opportunities. But yeah, our goal is to reach about 30 million over the next 3 years, and that seems very reasonable to us. It may be small in terms of a goal, but beyond that, I like what Arturo said. But beyond that, employing people, building communities that are around us, helping people grow in their careers, helping people enter into the healthcare career and grow in it, and providing opportunities for people to grow, giving back to our employees. We have a profit sharing plan where we give a significant amount, 10% back to our employees in terms of profit sharing. We're launching SECP Cares, which is our philanthropic arm of our work. So all of that matters to us. Our founder was a visionary who had a deep heart. And so, we carry our brains and we carry our heart into the future. But, we're going where a few people have gone before. We'll start tracking.
Oh, I love it. Great. Well, we do have time for a few questions, and I saw a few in the chat. One in particular says, for both of you, is there a particular percentage of your sales that's direct business or partnerships, and why?
You want me to take that, Mario?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Yeah,
think because they might have heard me mention the
Sure.
strategic partnerships and how we have built business. So we are a true tier one, and I said that's been it. I joke about I was just too old and dumb not to know any different. We used our business acumen to realize that we needed to build relationships directly with manufacturers because this competitive landscape was not conducive for small businesses. We couldn't compete with the big guys and the price value. So what we did is we started going direct to the manufacturers, in other words, and as a result, that became a niche. So we have our own contract base that we generate, we source, we procure, we qualify, we bid on it, we award it, we service our customers. That's what makes us unique in this space, because most of the other small businesses are partnered with the big guys. Now we're just, they get a lot of partnering, because they own those $500 million contracts, but we might have 20, but the difference is in the margins that we're able to determine because we're tier ones, and then we have internal staff where most who are partnered with the big guys generally do it through technology. So the greater percentage of our business right now is 90% of ours is direct. We're moving into another part about this class with Founders First, of those industry segments and diversifying those segments, because you have the tier one, you have the B2B, you got the federal. You want to try to diversify and keep yourself to where you're in different sets of industry. So right now it's 90% for us, but we're building, as I mentioned, Thermo Fisher, we're going to be on the large contract for Bristol Myers on the big contract. We have the capital equipment, we have the benchtop, but now we're going to partner with the supplier. And then we have a big one with Johnson & Johnson with our supplier, but we're also a direct tier ones with Johnson & Johnson. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Right now, we've been 100% B2B. I mean, our business has come through contracts with primarily with the managed care organizations, serving as a major subcontractor to them, and them outsourcing a lot of their work to us. We're looking at some things that would allow us to have some direct relationship with consumers. As I mentioned before, we're building a primary care side of the company, which would allow us to offer physician services directly to customers. We're looking at an urgent care business, the urgent care model. So, that in the future, we may move into an arena where we're directly selling to the consumer market in terms of healthcare services, primary care services. But right now, we're providing B2B services to managed care organizations.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we see that we have a few people who are startups or starting in the business of healthcare. A question that came up was, how did you fund your company? Was it bootstrapped? I heard a few, you mentioned bootstrap, crowdsourcing, and what would you recommend to raise funds, or how did you start it?
We had investors, but they were primarily investors from our community of clinicians and partners, the people who had worked with us to develop our model when we were going after this state contract. We dug deep into our own pockets to fund the work. And, that's beneficial. We had a few outside investors, very small. So the company is owned primarily by those of us that built it. But, it wasn't a small amount. So I'm not talking about a few nickels and dimes. The technology alone was a lot to invest in. So, but, we were able to pull the funds together from about 6 or 7 local investors, some family members, friends, et cetera.
We did bootstrap, and I'm gonna be real transparent here. As I mentioned, my husband and I both semi-retired in 2004. He's 9 years my senior. He's the one kind of drove that. And then we invested in a lot of real estate. And when the market took the dive in 2008, that's when we had to go recreate ourselves. Never in life. And by the way, I warn all of you that are, less than 50, brace yourself, because boy, I'm gonna tell you something about getting up here at Memorial. All of a sudden, it just, you build this corporate career, whatever, and your whole bottom just falls out. So you learn to be agile now because you're gonna need it at some point in life. The other part is that he went and took another corporate position. So he had a really nice salary. I decided to do the business. So we were able to supplement our life, so we didn't have to depend on the business. And so as I built the business, I was fortunate enough to have a scholarship through the Department of Transportation that provided consultants that, when I tell you about the startups, that showed you how to set up without spending a lot of money, like setting up Ring Central, where you don't have to have a receptionist and all that. They ring in and it's a toll-free number, but it's ringing to your cell phone. Okay, then you have a corporate address that's not at your house. Okay, that there's those Regis centers where you learn how to put an address, and then that your mail can. Otherwise, you cannot look like your mom and pop at home. So when you're starting up, it affords you the opportunity to save a lot in the beginning. So, and then everything that we did, we put it right back in the business. So we became real liquid as a result of that. That unfortunate life dealt some other circumstances personally. And so now we do depend on the business, but I didn't want to take debt, and that's not always the worst thing to do. Now, at point, everyone will tell you that you borrow when you don't need it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were really liquid. And then when, and this was pre-COVID, we invested in some technology, partnered on our first B2B partnership with one of the suppliers. And it took some turns. And then I lost my son, God bless. And so that took us into a tailspin. Let some other personal things happen. And luckily we had just closed and gotten the SBA just based on somebody saying so. So we were able to sustain. There are going to be some peaks and valleys in it. You're going to maybe be profitable or not profitable in the beginning. To get profitable, then you might be times that you take a dip. But again, try to get some mentors or someone that's around you that's been in business, who's gone through this, and try to help you. I've heard of crowdsourcing. I've never done it. We did do the SBA. We were fortunate enough to get the EIDL through the COVID stuff, and the PPPs. We had so many grants from Bank of America, do everything you can. When these grants came, it was $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to come take a class, which was, I'd take it if it was free, if it was not a grant. But the other part is that take advantage of all the resources that are available to you. There are grants out there if you have someone that knows how to source it. But that's we bootstrap.
And there are opportunities like Founders First. If you can hook up with them, they will help you identify investors. That's the challenging side of it. Funding. We as Arturo said, I had to, I put in a lot of sweat equity. Even I kept running the company and doing consulting work on the side until we really were in a position to, get to where we are. We did not have to borrow and now we don't need to borrow. I mean, we have a strong amount of retained earnings that we can grow from. So, I agree with her, but the other side of it is that even when you get the money, you have to be lean. We were lean in the sense that we're very efficient. We know, we can figure out exactly what it takes to do what we do without a lot of waste. So that's a critical side of it too. And
another point I'd make too is learn what the industry benchmarks are. Learn what industry you're going in, what the typical gross margins would be, what are the benchmarks of how you should try to. I strongly recommend that anyone learn to run your business through financials. Know how to understand the financial aspect and run it based on those. And as programs, as Muriel mentioned, like Founders First, to where we are now, we would not be able to. I'm sure we would, but I'm terrified to go out there and venture capitalists, and I don't understand. I know enough about the academic side, but I can't trust it. I can vet that, so it's organizations like Founders First that when I'm trying to find a COO, I'm like, God forbid, for the level that I need to be able to have Founders First to have these subject matter experts who stand beside us and help us to be able to go through some of these steps is absolutely phenomenal. So, and I've not seen an organization like Founders First. I haven't. I don't know if there are any of them out there, but I haven't. But again, it was divine intervention for us because we've been dreaming about being able to go next level, and we have to have that kind of funding to do that. So again, that's where we are now versus from where we started.
Thank you. And I promise you guys, we did not pay either one of them to say these things.
No, we're not.
Founders
We're not paid
we
advertising.
appreciate it.
I'm serious. I've never seen.
We're not paid advertising.
No. And then one other thing about Moriel, even in the class, you know, the industry he's in, when he spoke of how liquid he is, it makes you tremble. You know what I mean? So either, you know, the efficiency, you're right. You got to drive every efficiency there is. But look at the margins that may be in the industry he's in, you know, because again, the liquidity comes when you're smart and you're frugal and you put things back in the business. But when he talked about how liquid he was, I said, I might be on the wrong side. You know what I mean? So again, and kudos to you, Moriel, for doing such a great job.
Thank you.
I love it together. So we have just a few more minutes left in our presentation today. And there's one question that's very specific to you, Dr. McClurkin, and I'll make sure that the viewer here connects with you because it's surrounding your particular industry. So, and we'll also post the event too. We'll share a recording of the video as well as ways that you can contact our panelists today too. If you want to know more about their business, how to support, or any other ways that you want to stay in contact with them, that's a great way to do so. So I got a lot of gems from both of our speakers today, and I'm sure all of you have taken notes. Some of the ones, I'll just throw a few out there that I heard was, you need those 3 C's: capability, credibility, and capacity. Those are some.
6 of them.
I mean, 6 of them. I missed some C's.
I'll give them to you, but I joke about those C's because that's in our value prop.
Yes, we need all of that. I also heard you need to grow your character, build your infrastructure if you are seeking to get into this industry. Be nimble, learn to be flexible, and constantly have a learning mindset. Never feel as if you have reached the limit of your education. And so for all of our viewers today, I just want to thank you, Arturo. Thank you, Dr. McClurkin, for coming on today, doing a phenomenal job in letting us know more about your organization and being a wonderful member of Founders First. We appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Shaylin. Thank you.
And the honor is all ours.
Thank you.
Trust me. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
You are welcome, welcome.
Right.
Well, for everyone who's here, we want to thank you again for showing up, for leaving great questions in our chat and comments. Feel free to reach out to us. You can learn more about Founders First, all of our programs and services by going to foundersfirstcdc.org. You can also attend an upcoming webinar or fireside chat with us as well and learn more about organizations and making changes and shifts in the businesses. Upcoming, we have funding and acquisition by public company on May 17th and how to adjust your revenue model to drive customer adoption and attracting investors on May 27th. So we look forward to seeing you all, and thank you again for joining us on your lunch breaks. And I'm Shaylin Scott with Founders First, and thank you as well.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great one. Bye.